So good morning, friends, and Osama, it's wonderful to be here. And I come here as representing Ms. Radha Chauhan, who's the CEO of National E-Governance Division, Department of Electronics and IT, Government of India, under the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology. And I'm here to bring the perspective of what efforts, in some ways in baby steps and in other ways aggressively, we are trying to take to give some push to the wonderful efforts everybody in the civil society and the industry is doing in terms of social media. So, Osama, you talked about some facts and figures which were actually about digital divide. And Dr. Ronald, you also mentioned about digital divide actually being a kind of a retardant. So I have a very small presentation which I hope to take you through. Yeah, it's working. Clothes, by the way, I'm Dipinder. I'm head of strategy at National E-Governance Division. So it's not working.
It's not working?
Yeah.
PPT?
Yeah, the PPT. Yeah, I got that. Right. Okay, so towards empowerment through Digital India. Digital India is everywhere in the news. And sometimes even we have difficulty in figuring out what it exactly means, even though we represent the government. Okay, so technology does not determine society, it is society. And Osama, you and your team are actually, driving this kind of, this kind of thought process. And there is a lot of traction in the industry and the civil society towards this. We began with information societies where the transition was from material goods centricity to knowledge centricity, and now we have networked societies in which wealth, power, knowledge generation, they're all a function of our ability to participate in these networks. We see technology, this is the government perspective now, we see that technology is now at the heart of employment, education, health, welfare, you name it, any sector. We see that it is actually driving these sectors in a lot of ways. Digital divide has emerged because of all this traction at a lot of places. And now there is uneven individual access to ICT in both spatial and social terms. So ICT inequalities are actually mirroring our own equalities, our day-to-day lives and how we work in terms of socio-economic status, income, gender, age, literacy level, geography, and ethnicity. We see that these inequalities are actually getting reflected in ICT inequalities, which is actually contributing to the digital divide. This is what Mr. Kofi Annan said long back, that digital divide threatens to exacerbate already wide gaps between the rich and the poor. The stakes are high, and there is timely access to news and information. If we can bring it, we can promote trade, education, employment, health, and wealth. And in 2011, UN declared internet access a right, but in India, we are far behind, like, those facts and figures talk about. These are the challenges we are facing in terms of when we look out from the perspective of government in terms of our citizens. So we see that the average citizen's purchasing power is still limited in terms of devices and equipment, even though they may be very cheap. Still, a lot of people cannot afford those devices. 37% of the adult population is still illiterate. So even if they have a device in their hand, maybe they cannot access or read an SMS or take forward something on an app. Digital illiteracy is still restricting otherwise literate people from harnessing digital technologies. Even my mother found it very difficult to start using a smartphone. So though she is a doctorate, but because she's a senior citizen, she's digitally illiterate, so she can't harness this technology and then latch on to the social media platform, which is the final frontier. Now, relevant local and regional content is not always available, and ICT infrastructure challenges, especially in hilly areas. When we look at the terrain of India, geographically, we look at, especially the northeast, we're finding it difficult to connect those regions with the mainstream. And of course, there is this perennial problem of electricity and power availability. However, there is cognizance at the highest levels, and you must have seen Honorable Prime Minister and other ministers in the government very actively taking to social media. Economic resources of the country should be utilized for the well-being of the poor. Governance should be aimed at digital government, is what the PM has said. Our own minister has said that there is an imminent need to further bridge the divide between digital haves and have-nots. For this, it is proposed to launch a pan-India program, Digital India, which is what we are now rolling out. And Digital India is also for the poor and the underprivileged. So we cannot roll it out thinking that, we should serve the already served people who are amongst the higher echelons of the society. So we want to convey, and we are trying to do that through our own social media handles, and Ishan here in the front row is handling our social media approach, that it provisions for bringing in empowerment through digital means, through relevant stated aims under our vision areas and our pillars. I'll very quickly take you through this. You must have seen these vision areas and these pillars. So the ones which are tick marked, this is where we are focusing in terms of providing the push from the government. For example, high-speed internet as a core utility, easy access to a common services center, which is an assisted center where people who are otherwise illiterate or marginalized can go and seek digital inclusion. Seamless services in real time from online and mobile platforms, universal digital literacy, universal accessible digital resources, availability of digital resources in Indian languages. So these are some of the key thrust areas under Digital India. And then we have a lot of activities at rural, urban levels for providing broadband to maximum number of citizens. And I'll not go through these facts and figures, but this is our push. Then in terms of universal access to mobile connectivity, we are aiming for all-round network penetration and filling the gaps in coverage. We recognize that as of date, there are still over 55,000 villages which are still without any kind of network connectivity, and we are focusing on bringing them on board. We are rolling out the public internet access program through common services centers, which are the front-end kiosks, which are assisted access for villagers, and also through post offices, through a variety of ways. We are also trying to give a push to indigenous electronics manufacturing so that this digital divide can also be tackled from within in terms of our own capacity in rolling out our own high-end, cutting-edge technology and devices. And of course, we are trying to do inclusive growth through leapfrogging the digital divide through 4 targets, which is train a number of students, BPOs in every Northeast state, train 3 lakh service delivery agents to run viable IT services, and also telecom service providers to train 5 lakh strong rural workforce for their own needs with a slight collaboration from the government. So with this, I take your leave, and I would invite you to our MyGov platform if you're not already using it, and we also have our social media handle on Digital India. Thank you so much.